She spotted the human ship on radar and froze. Not just a legend. Lena Var sat alone in the dimly lit control room of the border station. The hum of machines and the occasional beep of the radar filled the space. The walls were metal gray, cold to the touch, and the windows looked out into nothing but black space. Stars twinkled far away, but here, far from the main systems, it felt like the edge of the universe. Lena had been stationed here for over 3 years, watching, waiting, and sometimes forgetting the galaxy existed outside these walls. It was quiet, too quiet. Most days, the only things appearing on the radar were drifting debris, small mining ships, or smugglers who rarely dared to get close to an official station. She leaned back in her chair, rubbing her eyes. The work was monotonous, but she knew every beep of the radar, every flicker of light on the screen. She knew when a ship passed far away and when something unusual appeared. The galaxy was full of danger, but here, on the edge of the known territories, danger was usually small and distant. Today, however, something was different. The radar pinged. A new signal appeared, bright and strong. Lena frowned. She reached for her console and ran a series of scans. The shape, the energy signature, everything was unusual. She checked it again. It was real. Her heart began to race. "This can't be," she whispered to herself. "Humans." The signature matched humans, and not just any humans. It matched the type they had only seen in old records, in stories, in warnings. Humans were supposed to be extinct, wiped out in the Great Wars. Some even called them legends. Mothers told their children not to believe the stories, and yet here it was, clear on her radar. Lena froze. Her fingers hovered over the communication panel. She could call the council immediately, report the sighting, and alert the fleets. But something made her hesitate. Humans were powerful, unpredictable. In history, they had fought and survived impossible odds. Even as legends, they inspired fear and respect across the galaxy. She knew that calling the council could bring a fleet, yes, but it could also start a war. She studied the radar screen. The ship was moving slowly, deliberately. It didn't seem to be hiding, but it didn't seem to attack either. It was as if it was watching, waiting. Lena felt a chill run down her spine. Every instinct she had screamed that she should panic, but another voice inside her, quieter, said to stay calm. She had to observe, to understand, before acting. Memories of the old archives flashed in her mind. She remembered the records she had seen years ago when she first joined the border service. Humans had come from a harsh, deadly world, a planet where only the strongest survived. Their home was a death world, full of poisonous plants, giant predators, and deadly weather. Surviving there made humans tough in a way no other species could match. Even with the galaxy united against them, they had survived for centuries. The council had decided that humans were too dangerous, too unpredictable. So they erased their records, destroyed their home systems, and told everyone humans were gone. Their technology was destroyed, their fleets scattered or lost, and the galaxy moved on. Some even said the humans had been myths from the start, stories told to scare children or warn soldiers. And yet, here it was, undeniable, glowing on Lena's radar. She sat back in her chair and stared at the screen. She could feel her pulse in her ears. This was not a drill. This was not a simulation. This was real. She took a deep breath and tried to calm herself. Her training kicked in. She ran every scan she knew. She checked the ship's energy output, its speed, its trajectory. Everything matched what she remembered from the archives. It was a human ship. Lena knew the stories. Humans had weapons that could destroy entire fleets, shields that could withstand bombardment, and an intelligence that made them unpredictable. They were not merely survivors. They were hunters, fighters, and strategists. Yet somehow she felt something else about this ship. It was not aggressive. It was not firing. It was as if it wanted to be seen. She thought about the possible reasons humans might appear here at the edge of known space. Maybe they were exploring. Maybe they had a new mission. Maybe they had come back for something important, something that even she could not imagine. The thought was terrifying and exciting at the same time. She had never expected to see humans in her lifetime, and now here they were. Lena reached for the communication panel again. She typed a few queries, sending signals in standard galactic code, asking the ship to identify itself. The response was nothing at first. She waited, watching the blips on the radar. Her mind raced with possibilities. The stories had warned about humans. They could appear when least expected. They could strike when no one saw them coming. And yet, she also remembered stories of humans showing honor, of humans saving entire populations, even entire planets from destruction. Humans were not monsters, they were unpredictable, they were powerful, they were human. Minutes passed. The ship did not respond, but it continued to move, steady and deliberate. Lena felt a strange mixture of fear and curiosity. She wanted to call for backup, to alert the fleets, to prepare defenses, but something inside her stopped her. She wanted to see what would happen first. She wanted to understand why a human ship had returned after all this time. She looked out the window at the stars, trying to imagine what lay inside that ship. She imagined humans walking its decks, looking out at the stars just as she did. She imagined their faces, their eyes, their determination. She thought about the legends, about the stories she had grown up hearing. Humans were supposed to be extinct, erased from history, and yet here they were. Lena's mind wandered to the great wars, to the battles she had only read about in old books. Humans had fought impossible odds, faced fleets that outnumbered them 10 to 1 and survived. They had adapted, learned, and overcome. She had studied their strategies, their technology, their resilience. And now to see them appear in her sector in her lifetime made her heart race. The silence of the station felt heavier now. The hum of the machine seemed louder. Every sound, every beep of the radar seemed to echo in the empty room. Lena could feel the weight of history pressing down on her. This was not just a ship. This was a reminder of the past, a living proof that humans had never truly been gone. She made her decision. She would not call for the fleets yet. She would observe. She would document everything. She would learn what she could before anyone else knew. Lena tapped commands into her console, activating enhanced scans, recording every detail of the ship's movement, its energy signature, its shape. She needed proof. She needed to be sure before anyone else panicked. As she worked, she felt a strange connection to the human ship. It was distant, yes, but there was something familiar in the way it moved, something she could not explain. It was almost as if the ship had a purpose, a direction, a will of its own. She wondered if the humans inside knew they had been detected, if they knew she was watching them. For the first time in years, Lena felt excitement. She felt the thrill of discovery, of witnessing history firsthand. She thought about the stories she would tell if she survived this encounter. She thought about the legends coming alive before her eyes. Hours passed. The ship continued to move slowly, without aggression, without deviation. Lena monitored every change, noting patterns, speed, and position. She began to understand that this was not a random appearance. The humans had a plan, a reason, and she was on the edge of learning what it was. Finally, she leaned back, exhausted but exhilarated. She had watched history unfold before her eyes. She had seen a legend become real. And she knew, deep in her heart, that nothing would ever be the same again. The galaxy would change, and she was at the center of it. As she sat there, staring at the blinking dot on her radar, Lena made a silent promise to herself. She would learn everything she could about the humans. She would understand their purpose. She would survive this encounter, and maybe, just maybe, she would witness the return of a species the galaxy had thought lost forever. The human ship, steady and deliberate, continued to move through the darkness, unaware perhaps of the small alien officer who watched it with awe, fear, and hope. Lena knew one thing for certain: humans were no longer a legend. They were real and the galaxy was about to remember them. And in that quiet, lonely station on the edge of known space, Lena could not help but wonder, why now? Why here? And most importantly, what did the humans want? Lena could not stop thinking about the human ship. The way it moved, the way it seemed calm yet purposeful, haunted her thoughts. She stayed at her console, watching every ping on the radar, recording every detail. She knew she had to understand humans better. The legends alone were not enough. She needed to know why they had returned and what they wanted. She remembered the archives again. She had studied them when she first joined the border station. They were old records, hidden in dusty rooms, almost forgotten by the council. Humans had once been everywhere. They had fought wars, claimed worlds, and survived disasters that would have destroyed almost any other species. Their homeworld, Earth, had been called a death world for a reason. Storms could tear cities apart. Predators could kill in seconds. The land itself tried to kill humans, but humans survived. Humans thrived. It was not just survival. Humans adapted in ways no other species could. They learned fast, they built machines to match any threat, and they could think in ways others could not. Their history was filled with stories of small human groups defeating fleets 10 times their size. The archives called them Deathworlders, and the name fit. Anyone who survived Earth's dangers and conquered the galaxy was not ordinary. Lena had always wondered what humans were like. She had studied their history, watched holorecords, read old reports, and memorized their tactics. But all of it felt distant, like a story about a distant star. Humans had been gone for centuries, their ships destroyed, their cities erased. Some people said the humans had disappeared because they wanted to, leaving behind only stories. Others said the council had destroyed them because they were too dangerous. No one really knew. And now the human ship was real, moving through her sector, right in front of her. Lena felt a mix of fear and excitement. She had read about humans, but reading and seeing were different things. Legends told of humans as warriors, survivors, and sometimes heroes. But there were also stories of humans being cruel, ruthless, and unstoppable. She could not tell which version would appear if she came face to face with them. As she watched, the ship changed course slightly. It was moving closer to a small, uninhabited system near the border. Lena could not understand why. The system had no known resources, no strategic value, no importance. It was just empty space with a few asteroids, and yet the human ship was heading there. She tapped her console, running more scans. She looked for weapons, energy output, shield strength. Everything matched the old human designs from the archives. Massive shields, powerful engines, weapons capable of destroying almost anything in its path. And yet, there was no sign of aggression. The ship was calm, deliberate, almost careful. Lena wondered about the crew. Humans were small compared to many other species, but they were strong, clever, and fearless. She imagined them on the bridge, watching the stars, calculating every move. She imagined their captain, someone who had survived impossible odds before, now leading his crew through unknown space. The thought sent a chill down her spine. Humans were dangerous, but they were also extraordinary. Lena knew that if she could make contact, she might learn things no one else had seen in centuries. Knowledge that could change the galaxy. She thought about what humans might want. Maybe they were exploring, like explorers from old stories. Maybe they were returning for revenge, or maybe they had discovered something important. She could not guess. The legends had warned of humans appearing when least expected, striking suddenly and decisively. But they had also told of humans helping, protecting, and saving those in need. Humans were unpredictable. Lena made a decision. She would try to communicate again, but carefully. She typed a message in standard galactic code, identifying herself, stating her position, and asking the ship to identify itself. She waited, heart racing, as the message traveled across space. Minutes passed. Nothing. Lena began to doubt herself. Maybe the ship could not understand her. Maybe humans had changed so much that the old codes no longer worked. Maybe this was the end of the story, a warning that humans were here but not ready to speak. Then, a response came. Short, clear, and in perfect code. "This is human vessel. Identify yourself." Lena froze. Her hands trembled as she read the message. It was real. The humans were real and they were speaking to her. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. She typed back carefully, identifying herself as Officer Lena Var of the border station and stating that she was monitoring the sector for any unusual activity. The response was immediate. "We do not mean harm. We are exploring. We have questions about this region. We will comply with your instructions." Lena felt a strange relief. The humans were calm, deliberate, and careful. They were exactly like the legends said in some ways, but very different in others. They were not attacking. They were not aggressive. They were respectful. And that was unusual for humans. Most species expected humans to be wild, dangerous, unpredictable. But these humans were measured, deliberate. She asked them more questions. Who were they? Where did they come from? Why had they returned? The responses were calm, giving no hint of danger. The humans explained that they had been traveling, observing, learning. They had stayed hidden because of the council, because of fear, because of past wars. Now they had returned to see what had changed. Lena listened carefully, recording everything. She could hardly believe it. Humans had not disappeared. They had survived, hidden, and now they were back. She thought about the stories of the past, the wars, the battles, the survivors. Everything she had learned about humans was coming alive in front of her. As the hours passed, Lena felt a connection to the humans she had never felt before. She realized that humans were not just legends. They were living, breathing proof of survival, of strength, and of will. They were clever, careful, and capable. They had been underestimated for centuries, and now the galaxy would have to remember them. She also realized that not everyone would be happy about this. The Council, the fleets, other species, many would see humans as a threat. But for now, she felt a strange sense of wonder. She was witnessing history, watching humans return after being erased from memory. It was incredible, terrifying, and inspiring all at once. She thought about the stories she had grown up with. Humans had been heroes, villains, survivors, and hunters. They had faced impossible odds and won. They had been written out of history, but they had survived anyway. Now she saw why. Humans were not just tough. They were clever. They were brave. They were more than anyone had remembered. Lena spent the rest of the day observing. She noted the ship's movements, the changes in energy output, the speed, the patterns. She tried to understand the humans, to predict what they might do next, but humans were unpredictable. She reminded herself of that. They could be careful and cautious, but they could also act suddenly, decisively, and without warning. As night fell over the station, Lena stood by the window, looking at the human ship. It was small against the stars, but it carried a weight that no other ship could match. It was a reminder of the past, of survival, of strength. It was a proof that humans had never truly been gone, that legends could be real, and that the galaxy had underestimated them for centuries. She knew that tomorrow would be another day of observation, another day of learning. She knew humans would continue to surprise her, challenge her, and make her question everything she thought she knew about the galaxy. And she knew, deep in her heart, that the story of humans was far from over. Lena smiled to herself, a mix of fear and excitement in her chest. Humans were here, and the galaxy would never be the same. She had seen the impossible, witnessed a legend become reality, and she knew that everything she had believed about history, about survival, and about power would have to be rewritten. And as she watched the human ship slowly move through the darkness, she understood one thing clearly. Humans were not just survivors. They were teachers, fighters, and maybe even saviors. And she, small and alone on a border station, would witness it all. She whispered to herself almost in awe, so the legends were true. Humans are real. And in that quiet station with the stars shining cold and distant, Lena knew that the galaxy had changed forever. She could feel it in her bones. Humans had returned, and with them, the story of survival, courage, and power that no one could ignore. The legends were no longer stories. They were alive. The human ship moved steadily, purposefully, a small dot of light in the endless darkness. Lena watched it, heart pounding, knowing that whatever came next, history was being made. And she was witnessing it firsthand the next morning. Lena arrived at the control room before the station was fully awake. She could hardly sleep, her mind still filled with thoughts of the human ship. She stared at the radar screen. The ship had moved closer to the outer planets of the sector, moving slowly, deliberately, as if testing the borders. Lena had never seen anything like it. Even the fastest alien patrols could not move with such calm precision. She tapped her console to run a full scan again. She wanted to know everything about the ship, its speed, its shield strength, its energy output. Everything matched the old records, but there was something new, something she could not identify. It was almost like the ship itself had a consciousness, like it could think beyond the machines, beyond the crew. The thought made her uneasy. As she worked, a signal came through on the communication panel. This time it was not just text, a voice, clear, calm, and strong. "Officer Lena Var," the voice said, "we request permission to enter the sector for observation. We do not intend harm." Lena's heart raced. The voice was steady, confident, and careful. She could hear no fear, no aggression. It was human. It was exactly what the legends had said. She nodded to herself, tapping a response. "Permission granted. Please follow standard border protocols. Any deviation will be considered hostile." "Understood," the voice replied. There was no hesitation, no pause. Lena felt a mix of relief and fear. Humans were powerful, but they were also disciplined. Disciplined enough to follow her orders, even if they could easily ignore them. She realized how lucky she was that the human captain was cautious and respectful. Most humans in the legends had acted with boldness without care for others. These humans were different, maybe wiser. Hours passed. The human ship moved closer. Lena could see its shape now through enhanced sensors. It was sleek, smaller than most capital ships she had studied, but powerful. There were no signs of damage, no visible weapons firing, and yet she knew from the energy readings that the ship could destroy almost anything in its path. She thought about the legends again. Humans had been called monsters, heroes, saviors, and destroyers. Their homeworld had trained them to survive everything, and every battle in history had proved their strength. She realized that the stories had underestimated their intelligence. Humans were not only strong, they were careful, patient, and strategic. They waited for the right moment to act. Lena's thoughts were interrupted by a sudden alert. An unknown fleet was approaching. Alien ships, small but armed, were moving toward the station at high speed. She recognized them immediately. They were a rogue group, not officially part of the Council's fleets, known for attacking without warning. They had likely detected the human ship and assumed it was unprotected. Lena's hands trembled. She had to act quickly. The station was lightly armed, not enough to stop even a small fleet. She had no backup nearby. The rogue fleet could destroy everything in minutes. She knew it. She activated the station's defense systems, preparing for an attack. Just as the fleet entered range, the human ship moved, slowly, deliberately between the station and the approaching ships. Lena watched in awe. The humans did not fire first. They held their position, shields glowing, engines steady. The rogue fleet hesitated. No fleet had ever seen humans approach like this without immediate aggression. The human captain spoke through the communication panel. "We will not attack unless provoked. Withdraw your forces, or we will defend the station." The rogue fleet laughed, assuming the humans were bluffing. They moved closer, ready to fire. Lena held her breath. She could feel the tension in every system of the station. One wrong move and everything would be destroyed. Then the humans acted. Quietly, efficiently, with precision. A series of energy pulses fired from the human ship, disabling engines and weapons of several rogue ships without destroying them. The remaining ships panicked, unable to continue their attack. They tried to retreat, but the human ship blocked their path, guiding them out of the sector safely but firmly. Lena could not believe what she was seeing. Humans were powerful, yes, but they were also merciful. They could have destroyed the rogue fleet completely, but they chose to disable and guide them away. She realized that the legends were true in more ways than she had expected. Humans were not only survivors, they could choose mercy. They could choose restraint, and they could do it better than anyone else. As the last of the rogue ships left, the human captain spoke again. "The station is secure. We will remain until further observation is complete. Thank you for your cooperation." Lena exhaled slowly. She had survived the first encounter, and she had witnessed something incredible. Humans had returned, and they were not just warriors. They were teachers, protectors, and legends made real. She realized that the galaxy had underestimated them for centuries. She spent the next few hours communicating with the human captain, asking questions about their mission, their journey, and their purpose. The humans answered carefully, giving enough information to satisfy her curiosity, but keeping details of their technology and plans secret. Lena respected that. Humans were cautious, disciplined, and intelligent. She realized that these qualities had kept them alive when no one else thought they could survive. As the day turned into night on the station, Lena watched the human ship move slowly around the sector. It was steady, deliberate, and calm. She felt a strange admiration for the humans. They were nothing like the legends had warned. They were better, stronger, wiser. And she realized that if the galaxy had remembered them correctly, it would have been terrified, but also grateful. She thought about the rogue fleet. They had assumed the humans were dangerous, and in a way they were right. Humans were dangerous, but not because they sought to destroy. They were dangerous because they could survive, adapt, and overcome anything. They could face impossible odds and win. They could hold back when necessary and strike decisively when required. They were not monsters. They were humans. Lena's thoughts were interrupted by a sudden signal from deep space. Another fleet, larger than the rogue group, was approaching. She recognized it as a council patrol sent to investigate the human ship. They had likely detected the battle from sensors and assumed conflict had already started. Lena's heart sank. She knew the humans could handle the patrol, but she feared the consequences. She had seen humans in legends fight fleets 10 times their size. She did not want to witness another battle, but she also knew it was inevitable. She quickly sent a warning to the human captain. "Council patrol approaching. They may be aggressive. Proceed with caution." "Understood," the voice replied. "We are prepared. No harm will come to the station. Humans do not seek unnecessary conflict." Lena watched as the patrol entered the sector. The humans moved strategically, positioning their ship between the patrol and the station. The council ship scanned the human vessel, weapons ready. Lena could hear the tension in the station's air. Every officer was alert, every system monitored the approaching fleet. Then the humans acted. Carefully, precisely, they transmitted a message to the patrol, identifying themselves, explaining their peaceful intent, and offering cooperation. The council ships hesitated, unsure how to respond. The humans did not fire. They held their position, calm, disciplined, and controlled. The council patrol finally responded. They requested permission to board the human ship for inspection. The human captain agreed, and a careful communication protocol began. Lena observed every detail, fascinated by the interaction. Humans were not just powerful, they were diplomatic, intelligent, and patient. They could handle a fleet without firing a shot. They could survive centuries of war and still choose restraint. Hours passed. The patrol boarded the human ship virtually, running scans and checks. The humans complied fully, showing nothing hidden, yet revealing little of their technology. Lena watched in awe. The patrol reported back to the council that the humans were disciplined, intelligent, and fully capable of defending themselves. They also noted the humans' calm restraint, a quality rare in any species. Lena realized that the galaxy had underestimated humans for centuries. They had thought humans were gone, weak, or extinct. Instead, humans were alive, powerful, and wiser than anyone remembered. They had survived death worlds, wars, and countless enemies. They had returned quietly, observing, learning, and showing mercy even when fully capable of destruction. As the patrol withdrew, satisfied, Lena finally allowed herself to relax. The humans had proven themselves. They had protected the station, handled the rogue fleet, and managed the council patrol without aggression. Lena knew that if any species had underestimated humans, they would soon regret it. She looked at the human ship, glowing softly against the dark stars. She could imagine the crew on deck, calm, alert, and ready for anything. She thought about the legends she had grown up hearing. Humans had been called monsters, heroes, and survivors. Now she understood. They were all of that and more. They were humans. For the first time, Lena felt hope. Humans were back. Humans were alive. Humans could change the galaxy, not just with power, but with intelligence, courage, and restraint. She realized that the future was uncertain but exciting. Humans had returned, and history was being rewritten before her eyes. As night fell fully over the station, Lena continued to observe. The humans moved slowly through the sector, careful, deliberate, and calm. She knew that tomorrow would bring new questions, new challenges, and perhaps new encounters. But she also knew one thing clearly: humans were no longer a legend. They were real, they were powerful, and they were here to remind the galaxy of who they truly were. Lena whispered quietly to herself, almost in awe, "The legends were true, and they are better than we imagined." And as the human ship glided through the darkness, steady and deliberate, Lena felt a strange sense of wonder, fear, and admiration. The galaxy had changed. History had changed. And she, alone on a small border station, had witnessed the return of humans, the Deathworlders who could survive anything and still choose mercy. The morning light in the border station was weak, a pale glow from distant stars. Lena Var arrived early, already tense. Her thoughts were full of the human ship. The previous day had been extraordinary, but today felt different. There was a warning in the Council's transmissions. A fleet of unknown origin was approaching the sector. Larger than the rogue ships before, fully armed and clearly hostile, Lena could feel the danger in her bones. She hurried to the control room and activated every sensor. The screens lit up with dozens of approaching ships. Their shapes were unfamiliar, their energy readings intense. These were not Council ships. These were predators, mercenaries, raiders, a fleet that had never been fully catalogued, and they were heading straight for the station. Lena's hands shook. She ran the numbers in her head. The station was not equipped to fight even half of this fleet. She could call for help, but any response would take hours. By then, the station could be destroyed. She looked at the radar, then at the human ship. It was still there, calm, almost motionless, as if waiting. She sent a quick warning to the human captain. "Hostile fleet approaching. They may attack. Prepare to defend the station." "Understood," the calm voice replied. "We will act only if necessary. We will protect the station." Lena watched as the fleet entered the sector. Their ships moved fast with precision, ready for battle. She could feel the tension rise in the station. Every officer prepared for combat. Shields were raised, weapons activated, alarms ready. The humans did not move yet. They did not fire. They waited. The first shots came from the predators. Energy beams streaked through space toward the station. Lena pressed herself against the console. She could see the beams impact the station's shields. Sparks flew, alarms screamed, but the station survived the initial attack. It was only a matter of time before the attackers broke through. Then the human ship acted. It moved like a shadow, fast and precise. Energy pulses fired from its weapons struck the Predator's engines. Several ships lost power instantly, spinning helplessly into the void. Others tried to fire back, but the human shields absorbed every attack without damage. Lena could hardly breathe. She had read about human power in the archives, but seeing it in action was beyond anything she imagined. The humans did not aim to destroy. They aimed to neutralize. Engines, weapons, control systems, all targeted to stop the attackers without unnecessary deaths. Lena watched in awe as the fleet faltered. Predators had faced strong fleets before, but none like this. They could not understand the human tactics, the careful precision. Their attacks became chaotic, their formations broke apart and confusion spread. Lena could hear the human captain's voice over the communication panel. "Withdraw your forces. You will harm no one in this sector. We give you a chance to leave." The Predators laughed, assuming it was a bluff. They sent a wave of ships toward the station. Lena's heart pounded. She expected destruction. Instead, the human ship moved with calm precision, like a predator striking only when needed. Energy beams disabled weapon systems, shields collapsed, engines failed. Ships tumbled through space, unable to fire or maneuver. The humans did not destroy them. They simply removed their ability to fight. Lena could not believe it. She had seen power before, but not like this. Humans were fast, strong, clever, and merciful all at once. They had survived death worlds, wars, and centuries of enemies. Now they showed the galaxy exactly why they were feared and respected. The battle lasted only minutes. The Predators had no chance against the humans' skill and control. The remaining ships retreated, leaving the sector in silence. Lena could barely move. She stared at the radar, at the calm human ship. They had saved the station without destroying anyone. They had won without anger, without cruelty. They had only acted with skill and restraint. Once the Predators were gone, the human captain spoke again. "The station is safe. No one was harmed. We will remain until observation is complete." Lena exhaled slowly. She realized what she had witnessed. Humans were not just survivors. They were strategists, protectors, and legends made real. They could fight like monsters if necessary, but they chose mercy when they could. They had saved thousands of lives today, including her own. She sent a personal message to the human captain. "Thank you, you saved the station. We would have been destroyed." "We do not seek gratitude," the voice replied. "We act as we must. All life has value. Humans survive because we choose carefully when to fight and when to protect." Lena thought about the words. Humans had been erased from history because others feared them. They had survived because they were clever, disciplined, and strong. And now they were showing the galaxy a new truth. Survival was not only about strength, it was also about choice. After the battle, Lena walked through the station. Officers and crew whispered about the humans, about the incredible power they had seen, about the mercy they had shown. She could hear comparisons to legends, to stories from centuries ago. Every story had been true, but the humans today were even better than the legends. Stronger, wiser, and merciful. She returned to the control room and looked at the human ship. It moved slowly, deliberately, scanning the sector, checking for hidden dangers. Lena realized something. Humans were not only powerful, they were teachers. They were showing the galaxy that strength did not require cruelty, that intelligence and discipline could control even the most dangerous situations. Hours later, a council fleet arrived. Lena watched anxiously. She feared that even humans might face resistance from the official forces, but the humans acted with calm authority. They transmitted information, explained the situation, and offered cooperation. The council ships scanned them, but humans allowed every inspection. They revealed nothing harmful to themselves but showed they had no desire to fight unnecessarily. The council officers aboard the fleet were stunned. They had expected a violent, uncontrollable force. Instead, they saw calm, controlled, intelligent humans. Humans who could survive centuries, outthink anyone, and still choose mercy. Lena realized that the legends had only told part of the story. Humans were not only strong, they were wise. They could control their power and use it with purpose. As night fell, Lena sat alone, looking at the human ship. It glowed softly against the dark stars, calm, steady, and powerful. She knew the galaxy had underestimated humans for centuries. They had survived impossible odds, had been erased from history, and had returned quietly, showing that survival was more than strength. It was intelligence, patience, and mercy. She thought about the rogue fleet, the predators, and the council patrol. None had understood humans. They had seen only power, not wisdom, but humans had shown the truth today. Humans could control the galaxy not only by force but by knowledge, strategy, and choice. They were not just legends, they were reality. Lena whispered to herself, humans are more than stories. They are alive, and they are teaching the galaxy what real power means. She realized she was witnessing history. Humans were not here to conquer, but to remind the galaxy of what it had forgotten. She knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new fleets, and new encounters. But humans were ready. They were disciplined, clever, and merciful, and she understood that the galaxy would never be the same again. The human ship glided through the stars, a symbol of survival, wisdom, and power. Lena felt awe, respect, and a small hint of fear. Humans were back, and they were reminding the galaxy that legends were real and better than anyone could imagine. She leaned back, exhausted but amazed. She knew that what she had seen today would change everything. Humans were not just survivors, they were protectors. They were teachers, they were legends, and now they were real. Lena closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of the day. Humans had returned, and the galaxy would remember them. Not as myths, not as stories, but as living, breathing proof of courage, intelligence, and mercy. And as she looked one last time at the human ship, calm in the void, she knew the battle was over, but the story was only beginning. Humans had shown their power, their wisdom, and their restraint. Tomorrow, the galaxy would learn that humans were not just legends. They were alive, and they were unstoppable. The next morning, Lena woke before dawn. She had not slept well. The events of the past days filled her mind. The appearance of the human ship, the rogue fleet, the predators, and the council patrol. She had watched humans act with power, skill, and mercy, and she could not forget it. The station felt quieter now, but the sense of anticipation remained. She knew that humans had returned for a reason, and that reason might soon reveal itself. She arrived at the control room and checked the radar. The human ship was still in the sector, moving slowly, scanning, observing, and waiting. Lena could sense intelligence in its movement, precision in every change of course. It was deliberate, not hasty, not careless. It was as if the ship itself knew more than anyone could understand. She wondered what the crew inside was thinking. What were their orders? What were their goals? A message came through, calm, steady, human. We request permission to meet with your command. We have questions about the sector and its history. Cooperation will benefit all. Lena felt her pulse quicken. The humans wanted to meet her, to speak with her directly. She quickly confirmed, giving the location and time. She knew this would be the first true face-to-face contact with a human in her lifetime. She tried to calm herself, but excitement and fear mingled in her chest. Hours later, the human ship moved closer to the station, docking carefully at the observation port. Lena walked through the corridors, heart pounding. When she arrived at the docking bay, the doors slid open, and she saw the humans for the first time. They were taller than she expected, lean but strong. Their eyes were sharp, intelligent, and calm. Their presence carried a sense of quiet authority. The captain stepped forward. "Officer Lena Var," he said, voice calm but firm. "I am Jack Carter. We come in peace. We wish to understand, to observe, and to cooperate." Lena nodded, feeling both relief and awe. "Captain Carter, welcome. The Council has not fully recognized your presence yet, but the station and I will cooperate fully." Jack smiled slightly. It was not arrogance but confidence. "We understand. Humans have returned to the galaxy after a long absence. Many will doubt, many will fear, but we only wish to remind the galaxy what humanity is." Lena listened carefully. Every word carried weight. Humans had survived centuries of danger, been erased from history, and now returned not to conquer but to teach, to observe, and to protect. She felt respect deepen in her chest. Humans were not only strong, they were wise, measured, and deliberate. They walked together through the station. Crew members whispered, some in awe, some in fear. They had heard legends, stories of humans surviving death worlds, defeating fleets 10 times their size, and returning stronger each time. Now they saw humans in person, calm, disciplined, and merciful. It was hard to believe, but impossible to deny. Jack spoke about humanity's history, about survival, about lessons learned on their homeworld, Earth. He told stories of courage, cleverness, and restraint. Lena realized that human strength was not just physical or technological. It was mental, strategic, and moral. They survived because they knew when to fight, when to hold back, and when to protect. She asked about the rogue fleets and predators. Jack explained how humans had acted carefully, neutralizing threats without unnecessary destruction. "We could have destroyed them all," he said. "But that is not survival, that is aggression. We survive by understanding, by controlling, by acting wisely." Lena nodded, realizing the truth of his words. Humans were feared because they could act with force when necessary. Humans were respected because they chose restraint. The galaxy had never truly understood them. Humans had been legends, stories told to inspire awe or fear. Now the legends were alive and even better than the stories. Hours passed. Lena and Jack spoke about the galaxy, about history, and about the Council. Jack explained that humans had returned to remind the galaxy of the power of survival, intelligence, and mercy. They had survived death worlds, wars, and centuries of enemies. Now they returned not as conquerors, but as proof that true strength combined skill, discipline, and choice. Suddenly, a warning came from the radar. A massive energy signature appeared near a nearby star system. It was enormous, far larger than any fleet they had seen. Alien forces, previously unknown, were moving toward inhabited sectors, attacking without warning. Lena's heart sank. She knew the humans could handle it, but the scale was frightening. She watched as Jack's eyes narrowed. "We must act," he said calmly. "Prepare the station. We will intercept." The human ship moved like a shadow, fast and precise. Lena watched as it engaged the massive fleet. Energy beams struck with deadly accuracy, disabling weapons, engines, and shields without destroying entire ships. The humans fought like the legends said, smart, strong, precise, and merciful. Even the massive enemy fleet could not match them. Ships fell out of formation, engines failed, and their attacks became chaotic. Lena could not take her eyes off the screens. She had seen humans save the station, neutralize predators, and handle Council fleets. Now they were facing a massive enemy, yet acting with calm precision. They were unstoppable, yet restrained. She realized the truth. Humans survived not because they were reckless, but because they combined skill, intelligence, and control. After hours of careful engagement, the fleet retreated. The human ship had shown its full power but had caused minimal destruction. Lena could hardly believe it. Humans had once been considered extinct, myths, legends. Now they were alive, strong, and merciful. They had reminded the galaxy of their place, not as conquerors, but as proof that survival was more than strength. Jack turned to Lena. "The galaxy will learn," he said. "Humans are alive. Humans remember. Humans act with wisdom. Those who underestimate us will learn. Those who fear us will respect, but we do not seek war, we seek understanding. Lena nodded, realizing the full impact of the human's return. She had seen power, skill, and mercy in action. She had seen history unfold before her eyes. Humans were no longer myths. They were living proof that survival, intelligence, and restraint could change the galaxy. The council contacted the station. They demanded explanations. Lena transmitted carefully. She told them what she had witnessed, how humans had acted with skill, how they had protected the station, neutralized threats, and chosen mercy over destruction. The council officers were stunned. They had believed humans were dangerous, reckless, or extinct. Now they saw the truth. Humans were alive, clever, disciplined, and merciful. Lena watched as humans moved through the sector, observing, protecting, teaching. She realized that humans had returned not to dominate, but to remind the galaxy of something lost. They were alive, strong, and wise. They were legends come true. The station crew gathered, whispering among themselves. Everyone had seen humans in action. Everyone had heard their words, felt their presence, and realized the truth. Humans were not monsters, not myths, not just survivors. They were teachers, fighters, and examples of what true strength meant. Lena felt a deep respect, awe, and hope. Humans had returned not for vengeance, not for conquest, but to show the galaxy that survival was not just about fighting. It was about intelligence, mercy, and courage. She realized that the future had changed. Humans were here, and the galaxy would never forget them. As the human ship moved away slowly, leaving the sector after completing observation, Lena felt a mixture of sadness and hope. Humans were powerful beyond imagination, yet merciful and wise. They had shown the galaxy what legends really were. She knew that the story of humans would spread, inspiring awe, respect, and perhaps fear, but also hope. She whispered to herself, "Humans are alive, they are real, and the galaxy will remember them." Lena returned to her console, watching the human ship disappear into the stars. She realized the truth of all the stories she had grown up hearing. Humans were more than legends. They were alive, powerful, wise, and merciful. The galaxy would never forget the day humans returned. And as the stars stretched endlessly around the station, Lena smiled. She had witnessed history. She had seen a legend become reality. Humans were back. The galaxy would never be the same. She knew one thing for certain. Humans were not just survivors. They were teachers, protectors, and examples of true strength. The story of humanity was no longer a myth. It was real, it was alive, and it had only just begun.